For this video, I'm going to try to do an overview of some of the GINA, a little bit more advanced features. There's something super crazy going on here, but I've had a couple of questions asking about things like the import feature and specifically the overlays. So with that said, I'm just going to walk you through some of this stuff and hopefully answer some of those questions for you guys. So the first thing that I'll do is when you come in here and add a character, most people do this and kind of forget about it. If you're wanting to know about the voice speed, as in how fast GINA reads off some of these things, so that option is actually in there in this area. So you can come in and you should be able to come and edit for your character if you've already created and don't want to change that. I run mine a little bit faster. You can go through and
only change this text and press the play button to hear a sample.
Yeah, you can do that. Should be able to
Only
adjust
change
it.
this text and press the play button to hear a sample.
Yep, and adjust the speed there. So you can do that. You can change male, female voice. Here in a minute, when I get to the categories, you'll see these colors reference, and these are where you change the colors for specific to a character. So keep that in mind for just a second. So I don't really want to change anything there, so I'm just going to save and continue. So the next thing that I'll point out is for the overlays. It's probably a good place to start. You should at least have this default text and default timer overlays, and I'll show you what I mean here. So we'll hit that, and you can see, actually I wanted the default one, I'm sorry. We can see the overlay. So this is where everything is going to go as far as if text pops up on your screen. Not the countdown timers, but the text itself. So what you can do is minimize GINA and come to your character, or your EverQuest window. If you have multiple monitors, you can do things like that. I think you can move it outside. Yeah, once you move it to multiple monitors and save location like that. But in general, this allows you to dictate where the text displays on your screen. So I like mine to be right above my character, so I can have good situational awareness and it just flash. Keep in mind of where, because EverQuest will also display text across your screen in this area as well. So sometimes it can be beneficial to see both of those, so you don't want other text overlaying that. You can do things like adjust the size, the font, how long it displays. If it's a solid or see-through background, generally I keep it with just the see-through background. You can change the name of the, how this is referenced within GINA. I would just leave it to default for that one. So I actually only use the default. I don't like a lot of text just flashing across my screen like that. So go ahead and save that and come back. So the next part is the timer overlays. Same kind of deal. You can have a default one. This is where I personally use, I separate things out, like the ADPS versus the event timers or emote timers, things like that. I also separate out like my monk discs versus warrior discs, cleric for boxing scenarios, so those aren't just mixed throughout the same kind of timer area, and you can see what I mean here. So my 8 DPS windows there, and then my warrior discs would show next to it instead. And sometimes there's overlap in this particular case. When I'm playing the warrior, I want to see the 8 DPS as well. So just something to notice there. So the next thing I'll say is I've created two overlays for just called the monk test and warrior test. And we'll be able to see those pop up here in just a second. Again, you can drag and drop the size, and that'll do things like text wrap or for your text overlay and your timer overlay. It will just adjust the bar size. The bars will fill to that screen. This should adjust the text size of the text that's within the bars. So change that to suit your preference, obviously. there's some different things that you can play with in here as well. I'm not going to go through all of that. Most of it's pretty self-explanatory anyway. The next thing, we can go back and see. I created some test triggers here. Very simple, just monk disk, and the same for warrior disk. Should have a text overlay, monk disk overlay, and it should create a timer, a 30-second timer, to display and show that. So I did the same thing here. You have the warrior disk is the search text, timer name is warrior test disk, and then same thing. So one thing to notice that's different between these two is the category is set to warrior test category, and the monk version is set to monk test category. So what are the categories? How do you get that? How do you get them added into this list? What you do is you come up here to this tab in the top left, categories, and you can add. And you can see here it'll say new category. Come up here and say, you know, your new, we'll call it the big test category. All right, and you can dictate which text overlay it uses and which timer overlay it uses. So that would be for which text overlay and which timer overlay, respectively. So you can see we have that test overlay for text, test overlay here, and then you have the monk and warrior disk test, and you can also see those here, the monk disk test, warrior disk test. So since I already have those created, I'm going to remove that one that we just made, no problem. We can click into here and say, so for the monk test category, anything that is marked in this category dropdown as monk test category should utilize these options, right? So that's going to be the test overlay and the monk disk test, if I can speak correctly. You can change the color of the text and the timer bars and the fonts for that. Earlier I mentioned in the character edit, you can use these text overrides and timer overrides where we use these character colors. That's where that comes into play. So that's just another method of managing the colors on your screen if you're into that kind of thing. I honestly just don't bother. So I think that pretty well rings out the categories here. One more thing I'll point out is I'm using the same text overlay but different timer overlays. So the text should appear in the same spot, but the timer should go to different places. So let's see that visualized. So I have two buttons here that will fire those disks. I'll do the monk one first, and you can see monk disk test, the monk disk overlay, and then monk disk test over here. So now if we do the same thing for the warrior disk, we can see warrior disk overlay text, and then the timer comes over here. And so we can also pull up those different overlays and see what's going on. So there's our text overlay. We can come over here and see our monk and warrior disk. So even have the ability to drag and drop and move around so that we can see where things are going as we fire them and play with them like that. So we can do that and play with it that way. So monk disk test, warrior disk. You can go back and forth there, make a lot of timers if you want, see how far down they go. If you're like me and you keep it down here near the bottom left of your screen, you know, if you have a bunch of timers that are going all at once, it could potentially cover up something that you don't want to see. So, you know, that kind of stuff. Higher resolution screens, you can make adjustments for, all that fun kind of stuff. Nothing super crazy there. So we can go ahead and close those out. And that pretty well explains the categories and how to move around and change colors for your different timers there. So the next thing I hear a lot of people ask about, you know, hey, I just reset my computer or changed computers, built a new one. How can I get my triggers back? Or can you send me some triggers? So obviously you can come in and do this share. Or get them from somebody that already has them, but most people have these set up for their character and have put a good amount of work into them, especially if you've gone through and done the categories and whatnot. So what you want to do is you can export to a GINA package file, put it on a flash drive, or email it to yourself, or put it on the forums, or whatever. It's just a file that GINA knows how to handle. So how you would do that is, say I wanted to share the test triggers that I've made for you, and maybe the group triggers as well, or common or class, or whatever. So the first thing I'll say is it works the same way as a file system for Windows at least. If you hold down Control, you can select multiple by holding down Control and clicking on the items that you want. You can also go in and select specific triggers, not just the folders or groups for them, like that. So if we just wanted to create a package for these test triggers, what we would do is select that, right? This group would contain both of these. You can also come through and select these explicitly, but just to prove that that works. And then to go to export here to GINA package file is the option we want. We'll call it demo2 triggers. I've actually done this before, forgot to delete that. So demo2 triggers. Save, and keep a mental note of where that's at. So now if we came through here and deleted, yes, and say wanted to get those triggers back or share them with somebody, email, like I said, anything that you can think of to get that file to them, we can come to this import area from GINA package file. There's that demo2 triggers that we created. So now we can look in here. If we unclick that automatically merge, you can see there's that warrior disk test and the monk disk test. And then you can do whatever merge that you want to do for that. That's just to demonstrate that that's what we got. So if we were to merge back in automatically, lo and behold, we have those triggers again. Obviously you'd want to enable them for that character if you want them to work, but just an example of that. So the last thing I won't say last thing, we can go through the search as well. That can be pretty handy. So just briefly, if we come in here, I've been using beta a lot because we're doing beta, but you can come in here and say for only, we can do things like what was that? I think it was monk disk that we had used. So monk disk, and you can say all the trigger matches, just the enabled trigger matches for this character. You can do some different options there. Usually I just say, whatever. I just want to see all instances of this, whether or not it would fire a trigger. You can search through archive files as well. That's not really relevant to what we're doing at this moment. But so I just want to see the current file, and I usually bound it by the last hour or last day. You can set date ranges here, but we can just come through here and see. Yeah, we do have that in our logs in the last hour, and that's what I was doing. I was sending my fellowship to test those disks. You can see that this is actually associated with a trigger. So, like it froze up when I hit it. Anyway, a hover over that will actually give you the file path. Oh, GINA crash, that's fun. We'll bring that back up. Demo demons, always fun. Oops. There we go. So now we're back where we were at. And so it looks like GINA, when it crashed, didn't save those triggers. So now you can see what it looks like when you don't have a trigger associated. You can actually come through here and hit that and create a new trigger for it. Down here in test triggers, something like that, and then you can define it. Pretty cool feature there. So that is the search. Use that to your to your imagination's extent. You can come up with generally some common phrases like "so and so begins to cast" or "you have taken" are kind of some common ones there that you can mess with. And the very last thing that I'll show is this performance. So this gauges the performance of your triggers that you are currently using, and it shows how quickly, without getting too deeply into this, how basically how efficient your triggers are written. And if you have a lot of these enabled, it can really bog down your computer. There's only so much I/O that it can handle as it's writing to, even for SSDs and NVMEs. There's only, there's going to be a bottleneck after a while when you're writing thousands of lines a second, as is the case in some of the rates and stuff. So you can just come through here and sort these, like the combined average, microseconds, that kind of stuff, and that's really going down a rabbit hole. But there are ways to, and this is fairly well documented, but there are ways that you can improve the efficiency of each of these. But in general, the best way to manage that is to just not have all of your triggers enabled at all times. So you can see right now for only I have just Claws of Vishan, The Burning Lands, and Torment of Alias. There's really no reason to be checking all of these other triggers all the time. So I think that's probably going to be long enough for this video. There's definitely more features that you can use with GINA, but so that'll definitely get you started for now.